I'm wondering, Randy, maybe now is the best time for Terry to read what she wrote
Right.
while we're
I
waiting
think
for
so.
Michelle.
Yeah.
Terry wrote what I thought was just a beautiful email, and a view of Ophelia that I was trying to express, but she's so much better at it that I thought that she really should share what she
Yeah.
wrote with us. So Terry, why don't you just take it?
Please.
Sure. Here's what I wrote. I wanted to say at the end of last week's session that I so appreciated your suggestion that Ophelia was really a woman with strength, rather than the submissive, retiring girl we often see in productions. Everything fell into place for me. I have often struggled to make sense of her responses and choices in the play, but thinking of her as a self-aware, intelligent, and strong young woman, someone Hamlet might love, a woman trapped in a man's world, don't we know how that feels, made the scene we read work so well for me. As mentioned, she seems to humor Laertes and reassure him. She teases him a bit as she chides him about avoiding the path of dalliance. But when her father challenges her about her relationship with Hamlet, I see her lines in a new light. She stands strong and defends Hamlet, gently but firmly. That provokes Polonius to keep on in an effort to reach and persuade her. Finally, he resorts to forbidding her to see Hamlet again. At that point, she has to acquiesce. That was probably not his plan when he began that conversation. The scene makes sense to me now. I can see that a strong, smart Ophelia, caught in the middle of so many men, would struggle and finally break. Thanks for that discovery.
Mm.
That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Terry. From now on, I'm going to have Terry just write everything I think.
I've been thinking the same too.
And if you can write as beautifully, then I'm going to pass it on to you as well, because I tend to be verbose. Randy once said to me that unless I speak 750,000 words a day, I'm not happy. And he might be right. So when I hear somebody do it in such a
Succinct.
and succinct way, I really appreciate it. And I do, of course, appreciate that we're taking a view of an Ophelia that I at least have rarely seen on stage. And I've always wondered about what would make Hamlet our hero, and someone that has had 400 and more years of so much written about him, choose Ophelia as the woman that he'd be interested. What is it about her? And also, I think we're going to find as we move forward, a lot of what happens in this scene will impact what's coming up. And so make that decision about Ophelia defending Hamlet at times, actually, I would say even with Laertes, not taking it quite as seriously as Laertes is taking it. We'll see how when Hamlet comes to her closet, something will happen that will have been influenced by this scene. Randy, you going to say something?
Yes, I have to leave temporarily because I'm still getting the sound notifications on the Zoom, so I've got to see if I can correct that. Okay?
And if you can't come right back, we'll just put up with it.
Thank you.
We've been trying to get rid of it all morning, so I don't think he's going to succeed. Okay, I think what I'm going to have to do now is just change a little bit of the casting. And what I will do is, hey, Ben, are you willing to do Laertes?
Sure.
And then Liz, Ophelia.
Yep.
And Lee, here's your barber's wish, Polonius. Oh, now we can't hear you. Speak. He's not getting it.
You're muted, Lee.
Yes, I know. Yes.
Oh.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Yes. I'll save my jokes for myself.
Oh, excuse me.
So What's the matter? Everybody's together?
All good.
Okay.
I think
It's me. I'm having a sneezing fit,
Oh.
an allergy fit, but I think I'm just going to be a bit nasal.
Okay, well, let's give it a go, okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, who's reading Ophelia?
I am.
Oh, excellent. Fantastic.
Hello.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit and convoy is assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet, and the trifling of his favors, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the suppliance of a minute, no more.
No more but so.
Think it no more. For nature crescent does not grow alone in thews and bulk, but as his temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor no caudle doth besmirch the virtue of his fear, but you must fear. His greatness weighed, his will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the sanctity and health of the whole state. Therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then, if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his particular sect and force may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep within the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariot maid is prodigal enough, if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not, virtue itself scapes not, oh, I have trouble with this word, calumnious, what's that? I'm sorry.
Calumnious.
Calumny, thank you so much. I haven't trained my mouth on that one yet. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. The canker gall, the infant of the spring, too oft before the buttons be disclosed, and in the morn and liquid dew of youth, contagious blasphements are most imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep as watchman to my heart. But, good my brother, do not, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, while like a puffed and reckless libertine himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and recks not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long. But here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles on a second leave.
Yet here, Laertes. Aboard, aboard, for shame. The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for there. My blessing with you, and these few precepts in thy memory, see thou character. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. The friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each unhatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it, that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy, rich, not gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France, of the best rank and station, are of a most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow, as the night the day, thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell. My blessing season this in thee.
Most humbly do I take my leave, my lord.
The time invites you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is't, Ophelia, he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Mary, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so, as so 'tis put on me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behoves my daughter and your honor. What is't between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection! You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Marry, I'll teach you. Think yourself a baby, that you have ta'en his tenders for true pay, which are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly, or not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, roaming it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honourable fashion.
I, fashion, you may call it. Go to, go to.
And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with all the vows of heaven.
Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know, when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul gives the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise, as it is a making, you must not take for fire. For this time, daughter, be somewhat scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. For Lord Hamlet, believe so much in him that he is young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of the eye, which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bonds, the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, Have you so slender any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet? Look to it, I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
Okay. Okay, I think we're moving forward, making some progress. Some of the things, let me just feed back some of my responses to the scene and what I would suggest. Let's look at Laertes for a minute. Ben, one of the things I want you to keep in mind, and everyone who does Laertes, is he says the word fear 4 times. And I think that one of the things that, you know, Stella Adler used to say, put the pink in pink. I think we have to start taking a look at the content of what someone is saying and how many times they say it to establish just what the importance of what is being said. So I'm saying that because it seems to me, and see if this makes sense to you, your Laertes right now is so wonderfully reasonable. Think of it this way, Ophelia, and think of it this way. And I love you, and think of it. I think we need to see the progression. And I think you're going to find this even with Polonius. Ophelia is the catalyst of their response. These men have not decided that no matter what she says, I'm going to say this. Otherwise, they've memorized it off stage and we no longer have a play. We have 2 speech makers. But what she is doing is not accepting. She does not have a line that comes back until the very end. Even, by the way, and I'll point this out to all of you, I don't know if you know it or not, no more but so is a period in both the quarto and the folio. Every modern production puts a question mark on it. And so you get no more but so. You didn't, Liz, which I thank you for, because when you play with that, it gives Ophelia an opportunity to make very light, almost playfully saying, no more but so. And that's what I think causes him, and look at that long spelling on think it no more. She's the catalyst for him. He said goodbye. He said goodbye, farewell. And now all of a sudden, he's taking an awful long time to leave. So something in her behavior must cause him to continue on. She's not accepting it. She's not getting it. That would be worked out with you and Liz or whoever Ophelia and Laertes are, to see what is it that forces him to actually progress to a point that says, fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, you know, and don't become too desirous of him. You know, sexual desire doesn't even need a catalyst in the young, is what he ends it with. So these are warnings about Ophelia's response to Hamlet. We get the problem that Hamlet has to face, and he does start off by saying, you know, that it's just a whim or something that is passing, you know, and not untruthful. He may love you now, but I'm telling you, it's going to change. That's the Hamlet section. Then it moves on to something else that has to do with Ophelia. And I want you to just now start to look at that. I think I said in my email, and Randy and Nick and I did this on Tuesday after that session. What happens if she tries to interrupt? What happens if she tries to get a word in? And that even provokes him more to give the next response to it. And a next response, so that he understands that she's about to defend her position or her love or whatever, but he's not going to let her. He's fearful of what she might say because it may contradict the warning that he's putting forth. it becomes a very, I think you all should try it, because it becomes a very exciting scene, and it gives life to his need to speak. I've seen him done in various ways. Playboy, sometimes they put glasses on him because that way he'll be studious. There are all sorts of exterior things. Some people make him dress gaudy so that, you know, Polonius has a reason for saying what he says, all of that. But I would urge everyone to take a look at what he's saying and to whom he's saying it. And what is it that she is doing? We can't do that. Obviously, on Zoom, it's very difficult to do reaction. But I'm finding more and more in this particular play, from scene 1, that the silences, what's not spoken, but what is reacted to, is essential to the life of what these long speeches are about. Otherwise, I'm telling you, they're going to get cut. Somebody's just going to write it off and say, well, audiences won't get that, so just one of them is good enough. But I think you're missing a real opportunity for an action that can take place between the brother and sister. And ladies and gents too, Shakespeare's not just writing a play about Hamlet. He's writing a play about a world that exists, that is patriarchal, a world where women can't get a damn word in edgewise. Men think they know better of how they should govern their lives. Frailty, thy name is woman. Gertrude, watch through the course of the play, the behavior of Gertrude. She acquiesces to Claudius because her husband wouldn't let the winds touch her cheek too roughly. She was not asked to be a partner in ruling. She was asked to be a very sensitive, fragile thing that the wind might harm. So of course she's going to be subject to somebody like Claudius, who comes in and tries to repeat that kind of treatment. So I think this play is large. It's huge. That's why it lasted so long. It's not because it's about a man who can't make up his mind or a star playing Hamlet. The play itself is huge, and Shakespeare's managed to pull all of the human behavior, human frailty into this play. So when we're looking at a scene like the scene we're looking at, it's very important that we understand that we're not just waiting for Hamlet to come back. This is essential to the world the play takes place in. Does that make sense to you guys? I mean, I find it so exciting, and that's why I'm putting it forth, because I've seen this scene, and it ends up so many times, no more but so, you know, good, my brother. And this tiny little voice comes out of this little piping little character, and she's the sweetest thing possible, you know, and then Polonius comes in, and we have the same thing. My Lord, he hath loved me, you know, and I'm so excited I can't remember the lines. But at any rate, that's not, I don't think we're doing service to the magnificence of the characters in this play. If we allow all women to look as if they're some kind of, you know, tiny little vulnerable thing that the wind would knock over. I think there's something else happening here. And with Ophelia, with the Polonius scene, Ophelia does defend Hamlet. Everything he did was honorable, she says. He tosses it off. But every line that she has to Polonius is in defense of the kind of affection Hamlet has shown to her. So that's what I meant by strong. You know, that she's willing to stand up to them. Can she win? Not certainly not by the end of this scene. Okay. Response, questions, answers, you know, anything else? The punctuation is something that I'm really feeling so interested in, because you notice that this scene has so many semicolons. And Randy and I have talked about those semicolons because I've introduced it as a downshift. And it is. You'll see characters like Bottom use it to make jokes. It's a kind of jokey, it can come in handy with comedies, Shakespearean comedies. It can also be an intensifier. It can be so that the character is not just rushing to the next thought. The character is trying to make a point. And Lee, I thought you did it several times where you found that semicolon and the thing that followed it became important. I don't know if you did that purposely, but that's what
I tried to observe them,
Yeah.
and just like pitching it out there unpolished, unvarnished, on anything. So it's interesting to me that for you there was a shift. I was trying to just focus on, okay, let's find it, and sometimes my
Yeah.
eyes blurred and the colon became a semicolon. But
Yeah, but I think that one of the things that I'm finding, and I've rarely seen in this scene, is how important it is for these men to convince this girl, which I think says a lot about Ophelia, as well as what is part and parcel of Hamlet's dilemma. He's prince. I also wanted to remind everyone that Laertes and Polonius and in the folio Ophelia have observed that scene where Hamlet was told he can't go to Wittenberg, where he was told that his mourning has been too deep and too long. He stood up to his mother and was almost, I mean, it's critical of the commonality that she was showing towards mourning. They witnessed that scene between Claudius and Gertrude, and they saw that Hamlet walked away, basically acquiescing to Gertrude and not being able to go back to Wittenberg, and not making up his own mind. He does not walk away with what he wants at the end of that scene. So if he wants Ophelia, perhaps he loves you now, but it's not going to happen. He's subject to his birth. It's not just something that they read about or they've learned historically, from where they live. We as the audience have witnessed that too. So I think it helps to tap in to that, in particular Laertes, in the protection of her. Laertes has to leave. And I think that will generate a lot of what's happening in how he has to say what he says. He gives adages that she'll hold on to. In the quarto, you'll see quotations around some of the lines. They've actually been notated as quotes. And the canker line is a quote similar to something in the Bible. But it's not because he's an egghead. It's not, it's because how do we remember things best? Slogans, adages, that's what sticks. And he's trying to find within this brief time that he has to get across to her some way to make her remember it. It's not going to happen in this moment, but remember this.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it just like that. I was just in the reading of it just then. So I'm curious to think about that a little bit, because I was without much prep on this one. What I was just sort of thinking as I was doing it was noticing, the times in which he is using really direct, simple language and then goes into quoting or really, really kind of loop-de-loop metaphors that don't really land, and I always find it interesting when characters do that. So I was very much noticing, and then, wondering, and then why am I doing that? Is it because it's too hard to talk about sex to my little sister? So I keep having to sort of, yeah, we're gonna talk in this, and then okay, but seriously, be afraid. And so I think that'd be fun to play with. But thinking about what you also just said about I hadn't thought of it in that way. I was thinking the strategy of, oh, I'm doing this because I'm embarrassed to talk about it directly, rather than you'll remember these if I quote them as adages or something. And I like that. I think that's a
Yes,
a fun
and here's the difficulty of all this. Remember, when Randy and I were involved in the Guthrie Hamlet, every 12 days something new was published about this play. It's an unending play, and so what I would say to you if we were in rehearsal, I'd say, play it, Ben. I'd like to see it.
Yeah.
I'd like to see how that sticks. I believe the only truth on stage is the truth that exists between two actors or a group of actors. So I can give you all of the book knowledge I can, but it's my conclusion that I'm coming to, and hopefully we mix them, you know. But you want to make sure that whatever you come up with is coming from the text. And so when you do those adages, then you have to accompany it with a kind of blushing, a shyness, of almost dealing with her in a way that shows it has to be accompanied with a physical action in order to make it work. And same for me, whatever I come up with, I think, I'm a real believer in suit the word to the action and the action to the word. Because I remember also that he doesn't just have nobles and educated people listening to this play. He has the groundlings, and the groundlings where they may lack in a vocabulary, or they will get the action of it. They will respond to the action of it. And so if you combine the two, I think it's great. So Ben, that's what I would say, is to just allow that. But again, I'd go back to, what is it in this brief period of time? What do you want to leave with? What I think is interesting to hang on to is what you say, fear it, Ophelia, and you come back to a sister who is mad. And the connection to that madness is Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
He hasn't just become mad, randomly. So whatever your fears are in this scene, somehow when you come back, that you have to still hold on to what you were afraid of. Did she give in? Did she follow your advice? So when you're giving the advice, it comes with a sense of dire need for her to get it. Dire need. And even when she responds to you, good, my brother, that's great. I will take this, she says, as watchman to my heart. So whenever I'm feeling too deeply, I'll remember your words. However, she says, don't, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the thorny way to heaven while you go and have a great old time. Oh, don't fear me. He says, fear me not. It won't happen to me. Well, it's interesting that his father's going to come spy on him, because that may be the exact thing that he's doing. But even her response to you is, okay, I will take that. But she looks at it as preaching. She looks at it as what a pastor would say to someone following, in the church. But you don't have a chance because Polonius is going. You say, oh, fear me not. And you can't say another thing, because who shows up? Dad. So you've been cut off from any of it, and you are late. You are late. The ship is waiting for you. I want to point out one other thing, and that is, my necessaries are embarked. Look at the short spelling. You see that embarked? That is such a wonderful thing to play, that you're ready to go. My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And then you get this beat in there. Something makes him stop and remember Hamlet before he leaves. But he's ready to go. And again, we would have to play it and see what are all of the possibilities that allow his speech to progress the way it does. Good? Makes you want to get up on your feet?
Yeah. Read it again. But what you said about embarked out of Laertes' mouth summons the ships, summons the transit, summons the urgency, gets that going. And then the aboard, O-O-R-D, aboard, aboard, for shame. Come on, this is what there is a tide in the affairs of men. We cannot slow that down. So there is a powerful natural urgency underneath everything
Yeah.
too.
Yeah.
Let's launch.
And it's so important because I think that they have such long speeches that they can't just decide that even when Polonius is doing his stuff to Laertes, he has some midline stops with periods, but it goes on pretty well. I think one of the wonderful moments, and I said this to Randy, when you get to hold on a sec. Be wary of entrance in a quarrel. You know that one.
Yeah. But being in
I want to
beware
find
that
the
I
exact.
opposer may beware of thee.
Yes, but look what happens. Where is that? It happens right there, right on that line. He has a moment where he says, "The wind sits in these few precepts." Okay. Friends, grapple, do not entertainment, unhatched, blah, 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 blah. There's a, oh, damn it, now I can't find it. But it's a wonderful moment where it almost seems like he's forgotten what he's going to say. And it almost opens the door to the scene with Reynaldo when he does forget what he's about to say. And it's a short line. I have to find it. I'm sorry, I should have notated it. But I keep looking for those moments that link one scene to another scene coming up. You get a tiny little glimpse of it here, and then of course it's going to be fuller in the scene with Reynaldo. I'll have to find it for you. Sorry.
Yeah. You mean, and they in France have the best rank and station, that line? Well, regardless, yeah.
I can't.
It's so fun. Again, I'll just keep saying it, but just to follow the spelling,
yeah,
just to pay attention to that. That I know my reading is slow, ponderous, but I was just trying to observe all of those things again.
Yeah, and I think that's how you have to start. I mean, I think that one of the things that I'm learning is that just to really take a look, because what that will do also is to say to you, why is he choosing that particular word? I think a lot of times what happens is the words get thrown out in the energy or in whatever it is. But I think that if you slow it down, then you can pull it together later. But if you slow it down, you can get a really good idea of, and in this case, he's being very particular in grapple them to thy soul, as opposed to grapple them to thy soul, then grapple has nothing. And under what circumstances do we use grapple? It's not an everyday word, but a lot of, I think what's happened to us also, because we've been told that Shakespeare audiences don't understand Shakespeare, we either deliver it as if it's so simple that they'll know I know it, or as if, well, it's Elizabethan and everybody said in Elizabethan England, everybody uses that word all the time, even though we as Americans may not use it. So we try to take the meaning out of it and put the ease into it. But I think when you look at what he's saying, he's very specific in the choice of words. But not expressed in fancy. Long spelling, not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy. Gaudy, and everything that comes after that comma is a new thought. So he's not saying, in most modern texts, you'll see rich, not gaudy, no comma. But here, you get the comma, rich. Now I have to think of what not gaudy. Then I've added that on to it. So Lee, when you're slowing down, you slow down to just start to experience, why is that there? What is that? Then you can go back.
That's a whole lot of punctuation to experiment.
That's exactly right.
Just to kick around, because it's like, man, just in that whole 5-6 line section, it goes, there's a semicolon and a colon and a semicolon and a colon and a semicolon and a semicolon and a colon, and then a period, or and a comma in there just for kicks.
Yes, and that period, we forget it all the time, but that period is the point at which you check in to see if what I said landed. It doesn't divorce you from communicating with it. It actually enhances the communication with the person you're speaking to, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all. So I have to change my tactic, because either he shook his head, he understood it. So now I can finish what I'm about to say. It's an amazing tool, and once you learn it and wear it like an old suit of clothes, I'm telling you, it's a joy. It's an absolute joy. But it does take time. It takes time, and I find words. I say this all the time, and I will say it again. A word does not just have definition, it has life. It has life. So it's not just about being clear, being understood. Somebody once said to me, I saw a production of such and such, and like it or not, it worked. And I said, my toaster works. I don't want to see it on stage. I don't care if it works. I want it to be alive. I want it to move people. Every moment I want to be a human moment. And that's the work that it takes to get there. Anybody else? I tell you, 750,000 guys. I don't know where we're at. Any other?
And
Yeah, Nick.
Your the Polonius, the pause.
Yeah.
Is it beware? Was it of each unhatched, unfledged comrade? Beware.
Yes, that's it.
Quarrel.
That's it, right there. Thank you, my darling. Yes. Oh. So you see it, Lee? It ends on the period, each unhatched, unfledged.
Comrade, period. Beware of entrance to a quarrel.
Yes, but if you take a little beat in there, as if to say, what was I going to say next?
What have we done?
Beware
of entrance, yes.
Yes, that's right.
Quarrel. But being in, bear it at the
then you can move on. That's right.
Yeah.
Little things like that are wonderful wonderful things to play with. Okay. I think, and we talked a little bit about this last week, the other thing that I think we need to get across is there's a difference between the advice that Laertes is giving Ophelia and ultimately what Polonius is. They're not the same. Polonius only talks about Hamlet's station once. Everything else he talks about is her getting into trouble by giving herself too freely to Hamlet. I love the line when he says, I know when the blood burns. And I think I put in my email, how does he know? How does he know?
Experience.
Yes, he's reflecting on himself. That's he knows how all young men behave. Find out he's wrong, but it's those are the things that I keep looking for. Are we ready to read it again? Yep.
Give it a shot.
Yep. Does somebody have anything? Rebecca, were you going to say something?
I hope that this wasn't something addressed at length last time, but do you think that their only concern for her is the fact that Hamlet's above her station and therefore he won't be allowed to choose her, therefore keep away? I mean, it seems like, I guess I think about, say, the family of Anne Boleyn trying to push her into the lap of Henry VIII. And it would seem that maybe this would be quite a fine catch for Ophelia, or is there more of a status difference between them? Do you have any thoughts on, is there anything beyond just the fact that he's a prince and she's a young woman that makes them so very reluctant to have her even be at risk with him?
Well, again, what I feel is that the thing that we saw happen is that in the end, Hamlet's not going to be able to choose for himself. There's a king now who we've already seen reject some of the wishes that Hamlet has. The other thing is, yes, her station is, one would think that he would marry a princess, and she's not a princess. She's the daughter of the Lord Chamberlain.
Who comes with an incredible dowry of some sort. I mean,
That's
there's power, questions of power involved
Yeah.
too, right?
Yeah. But as I said, I think it's one of the elements, definitely. But I think the other thing is Hamlet right now is taboo. I just think that they are not, was not even up for election. He's the heir to the old king, and he wasn't even allowed to be a choice. And the entire court went along with Claudius being king. So Hamlet, what does Hamlet get out of anything here other than, a couple of nights of sex? And there's no promise that he can make to her that's actually going to put her in a better position. I just think there's more to it than just the one thing. I think Laertes makes much more of it than Polonius does. I think Polonius mentions it once, but I think Laertes has a kind of chunk of his speech has to do with, how nature crescent, that whole speech of how when we grow, our minds change, that our mind and our soul grow too. He's looking at it as a passing fancy, that there's nothing permanent in this relationship, at least is what he's saying to her, and maybe he can't understand why Hamlet would be interested. Okay. There's a lot of maybes, but that's okay. When there are maybes, it just means that Shakespeare, there's definite stuff that Shakespeare's put into this. The maybes are the audience will watch, and that mirror will be held up to them, and they will have to make decisions of, gee, I wonder why he's doing that. Not what he's doing or what he's saying. I mean, it doesn't get us off the hook to just be random, but there is a lot of question. Remember, the number one punctuation in this play is the question mark, more than any other punctuation. So I think that to wrestle with holding the mirror up to nature, and the speech that Hamlet will have, to the players, is there's a certain task that he's suggesting we have when we're performing that leave a lot up to the audience to see themselves in the mirror we are putting up. So I think those questions are part of that conversation that will happen, not only after they've seen the play, but 400 years later. We're still discussing it. Scholars are, listen, I've read so much stuff. I had to go back and read all of the stuff again. And I read it and I thought, you're hard pressed to get two scholars who agree on anything. Once you put them all together. I've read people who say Laertes 18. Well, where did that come from? An actual numerical. And then the numerical of Hamlet being 30 when the Gravedigger talks about it, we throw that out. We make him 17 because he's in school. So we do what we want, and then we ignore when there are a numerical reference. You know what I mean? So I think that you'll find when you do all of the research, the reason that scholars can't come to a conclusion about some of it is because I think Shakespeare's a devil. I think he kept it open. And he's driving us all crazy. But the minute you try to put a cap on it, I think you're in trouble. You got to find out what deserves the cap. I mean, the ghost comes back and the ghost looks like Hamlet's father. It's reiterated so many times. So we know that he's not a light. We know that Hamlet isn't possessed by him. We know there are all sorts of choices, creative choices. Fine, good, have a ball. But they're not Shakespeare's play because he's determined, and he says it over and over again, that the spirit came back, looks like your father, and he is in armor. You can hang your hat on it. But that's the thing we end up changing. It's amazing to me. We change what Shakespeare has written and then, make something else up. Okay, that's me. All right.
I just want to say I remembered something, of course. I have not been looking down the line in the play, but of course, Gertrude does say that she wished that Ophelia would have become Hamlet's wife.
Yes.
Which then makes that a possibility in this paradigm, right? And therefore we have to look at Polonius's cutting her off from contact with him in light of that too. That it's not just because, anyway.
Yeah, let me add to that.
Motive of some sort.
Yeah, let me add to that.
Yeah.
Who benefits from that if Gertrude doesn't? Because Gertrude thinks it's her or hasty marriage that's made him mad. If it's Ophelia, be my guest, marry him. I hope your beauty is the thing that will bring him back to his wonted way. Because before that, Claudius has said to her, do you think this is it? And she says, maybe, perhaps it is. But she said earlier that I think it's just our or hasty marriage. And so she knows, and he's made that clear in the first scene, that he is not pleased with the marriage, even with her, the grieving that she let go by so quickly. So it's that kind of, you're absolutely right. The other thing I thought you were going to say, and I would add this to it, is Polonius is wrong. Polonius is wrong because Gertrude has the power to make her queen should everything work out. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's read it again. Okay, Randy, Laertes, you're up. And finally, Nick, since all the women got to play men, you're Ophelia. And Jim, come back. Jim, he's gone. Polonius. Okay, let's hear it.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, if the winds give benefit and convoy is assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet and the trifling of his favors hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the use of priming nature, froward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the suppliance of a minute. No more.
No more, but so.
Think it no more. For nature crescent does not grow alone in hues and bulk, but as his temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor caudle doth besmirch the virtue of his will, but you must fear his greatness, Wade. His will is not his own, for he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the sanctity and health of the whole state. And therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then, if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his peculiar sect and force may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep within the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before the buttons be disclosed. And in the morn and liquid dew of youth, contagious blasphements are most imminent. Be wary then. Best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep, as watchman to my heart.
Good.
Good my brother, do not as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst like a puffed and reckless libertine himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and reeks not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long, but here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave.
Get here, Laertes! Aboard! Aboard! For shame! The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for there.
All right.
My blessing with thee, and these few precepts in thy memory. Look thou, character. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his acts. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. The friends thou hast, and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel. But do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each new-hatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit in thy purse, that thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France of the best rank and station are of the most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell. My blessing season this in thee.
Most humbly do I take my leave, my lord.
The time invites you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is't, Ophelia, he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Marry, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very much of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous, if it be so as so 'tis put on me, and that, in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so dearly as it behooves. My daughter and your honor, what is between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection? Pooh! You speak like a green girl unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Marry, I'll teach you. Think yourself a baby, that you have ta'en his tenders for true pay, which are not starling. Tender yourself more dearly, or not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, roaming it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honorable fashion.
Aye, fashion you may call it. Go to, go to.
And hath given countenance to a speech, my lord, with all the vows of heaven.
Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know when the blood burns how prodigal the soul gives the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise, as it is a making, you must not take for fire. For this time, daughter, be somewhat scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. For Lord Hamlet believes so much of him that he is young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In few, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of the eye, which their investments show, but mere implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bonds the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not in plain terms from this time forth have you so slander any moment leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it, I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
Okay. Okay, and every time we do it, then of course a new discovery comes along with it. One of the things that time I thought raised a question is, my necessaries are embarked, farewell. And as the winds give benefit and convoy is assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you. And look at her response. Do you doubt that? Is that possible? Why is he saying it? Why is he saying it? What does he want to hear in that letter? He wants to hear everything that's happening with her and Hamlet, not just the whatever is happening in Denmark. He's planting a seed for the next thought he will say.
Mm.
Do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
No.
Do you doubt that? For Hamlet and the trifling of his favor, look, you hold it as a toy in blood, and then he goes from there. But he connects it. That's what I'm looking to see, what he expects to hear in that letter and why she's surprised. Of course I would write to you. Of course. Why would you even doubt such a thing? Do you see? Tiny little thing. But
Yeah.
it connects. Yeah, makes sense?
Yeah.
The other thing that I want, if you may have noticed that Randy had changed the word fear to will. We are going with the change. It is in the quarto, and it looks like fear was a typo. So you know where I'm talking. Gotta get this.
Yep. Virtue of his
The virtue
fear.
of his fear is in the folio. It should be the virtue of his will, because he uses will in the next line. The same thing with froward should be forward. Again, and you can see where it would be a typo. The R, transports the O, but it makes sense. I looked up forward, and there's just no way. The question one is in his particular set. That one. There was, what is the actual line, Randy? Do you have it in front of you? Right? Peculiar.
Yes.
When you look, there was something called peculiar people in the church, and they were chosen by God. So, and sect sort of goes along with that idea. So it's not like that it's out of the question, but again, if the other comes from the quarto and it makes clearer sense, then we can make that choice.
What's the quarto change there?
To particular place.
Particular, okay. Particular sect and force, okay.
Yep. And that's kind of the rule of thumb for Randy and I. When it's in the quarto, if it looks like it's not making sense in the folio and you do all of the research about it, but it's in the quarto, obviously it's a text that was governed by Shakespeare, and so it's it's worth
an earlier text.
It's why I say when there's a period in both cases with no more than so, then I would be I would not change it to a question mark, because that would be somebody's thought that, oh, it must be a question.
Yeah.
See what I could play with it being a statement, because it's in the both texts, okay? Okay, I want to point out another thing. The sanctity of the state, when Laertes talks about, again, he's just witnessed that all of the rules that we follow have been broken in that second scene. He's allowed an incestuous marriage. He's allowed to shorten the king's mourning. He has been allowed to have himself elected king. It's
You mean
all
Claudius?
Claudius, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, because the state is in peril of an invasion from Fortinbras. So if the state is requiring the laws to be broken, then we will break the laws. So I think Laertes' point is that the state will govern whether Hamlet has the right to marry Ophelia or not, that the choices are not made in any traditional way, but they're made to protect Denmark, because that's what he's learned in that second scene. That's that one. The other thing that I want to point out is, Randy, if you would take a look at the last three things he says to her, list his songs, the section that starts with that. If with too credent ear you list his song.
Yes. Okay.
And progress them, because listening to a tune is one thing, losing your heart is another thing, opening your chastity is bigger. So it gets
Right.
greater, rather
Right.
than them just simply being this on the same level. And I think what he does is it'll lead right into fear it.
Yeah.
Ophelia, because it is that last thing that is the most.
My natural tendency is to see a colon,
Yeah.
to build something. But when you see semicolons, you know, semicolon after song, semicolon after heart, there's I can't hear the how that's supposed to sound.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
Each one is more weighty. You used that word the
Could
other day.
suggest, you know, we
Weighty,
talk about
important.
blocking. It could even suggest an intimacy that gets
Closer. Yeah.
for, you know, for
Yep,
instance,
yep.
I'm sure there are
Well,
many.
it kind of goes off of what Ben was saying before about the awkwardness of it.
Yes.
That
Or
it
that,
was like,
yeah.
Yes.
like the intensity, you know, they're
Yes.
different. Song, heart, but that the semicolon is that it's a little, I don't know,
Well,
touchy.
but he's not physically attacking her with each
No,
one.
no.
That's why I
No,
think
I'm sorry. Yeah, like I said, just but it could suggest a physical.
No, I think
Yeah.
you're right.
I think
Lee.
Nick's on it. I think the
I think
awkwardness.
you're right that
Yes.
they can get closer, but they're not. He's not storming her. You know,
No,
so
no,
it's
no.
closer, but it becomes intense. That's why I said it can be an intensifier. Cassius uses it with Brutus. When he says, I know that to be in you, you know, that line that most people make a colon out of it, and he bombards Brutus with this idea of Caesar, and you know, but that's not what the folio is saying. The folio puts a semicolon, so all of a sudden he's becoming more trustworthy because he's downshifting rather than no, do the, you know, we're very skeptical of people who are emotional, because you can say it's coming purely from emotion, but with this he's saying if you lose your song, you know, lose your heart.
Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs,
Downshift
or lose your heart,
and downshift.
or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity.
I love that, Annie. You keep saying downshift, because that's what I think of, because when you downshift, you get more traction. you know, and
Ah,
so it's like each one of those, it's slower, but it's digging in a little deeper, you
yes.
know, and yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think
I like doing an exercise. Jim and I did it on
Oh,
Sunday. We're working on the folio, and we did it on Sunday where as he was reading, I would say to him, downshift, jump, stop. I would verbalize the punctuation so he didn't have to think about it. And then he could make those changes. I do it with Nick all the time because it really just puts the folio in action. You're not putting a interpretation on it. You're actually getting to hear how,
and the feel of it.
yeah. So that was the other one that I wanted to bring up.
Mm.
Now, I want to talk, I want to point out Polonius. I think, Jim, be careful. What my ear was hearing was you came to a conclusion so early on about her that it didn't grow into this is for all. Now, you don't have an Ophelia with you to respond to that, but can you take that speech again? I want to show you what I'm talking about.
From where?
Take it, let's take it right from the top, and Nick, you'll do Ophelia. Say goodbye to Laertes, and then because this is where it all begins, right?
Okay.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is't, Ophelia, he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
And if you can,
Harry,
hold on again, just start. What I'd like you to do is just to be a little more curious about it, because it happened in front of your eyes. Let's paint the picture. It happened in front of your eyes, a secret between the son and the daughter, and the father is not. And Polonius needs to know everything. As Lord Chamberlain, as father of the house, he must know everything. Otherwise, he will not be able to do his job. We will see this in this character as we move forward. So here, when you ask the question to really find out what was that about, okay? Let's see what happens.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I've said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
what is't, Ophelia, he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Marry, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very much of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience and attendance been most free and bounteous. If it be so, and so 'tis said to me, and that
Good, you're doing great. Start that, very well bethought. That's a good idea. He did a right thing. So approve of what he did, and now share with her what the rumor in court is.
Mm.
marry, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very much of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience and attendance been most free and bounteous. If it be so, and so 'tis put on me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you have much mistook. Off the wrong.
Yeah, don't worry. Just let's see it.
You did understand. Let's see. Here we are. As it becomes my okay. I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor.
Yeah, now, folks, here's where I'm going to start talking about reputation, because Polonius is very, other than loving his daughter and loving his son and all that, he never gives his son, by the way, advice on how to be a good person. He doesn't say go to church every Sunday. He doesn't say love thy neighbor. He doesn't say love God. Everything he tells him is what will develop a good reputation in France. All right. And here, his daughter is going to leave a reputation for her father that is going to be troubling because he is the Lord Chamberlain. All right. So that's where we start with this. You know, he told me late that you've given private time to him, you know, and I must tell you, that's something that my daughter is not allowed to do. What's happening? Give me up the truth. So it doesn't have to smash her over the head. It just tell me the truth. And she says, my lord, he hath made many tenders of his affection to me. Now you pick it up. Right? And you go, it was not tenders, but at any rate, you understand what I'm saying. As you go through, you look at what Polonius says, and so much of it has to do with what the reputation that she will lose, the reputation that he will lose. But that's what his main concern is here. It will grow towards the end of the speech, but the fact that there are rumors that, oh, did you see Hamlet and Ophelia? Boy, she goes to him a lot, doesn't she? All eyes are on Hamlet. He's under a microscope, and he's giving attention to Ophelia, and it's getting back to you. All right? Or you have Rinaldo checking up on Ophelia, who the hell knows? But it's something that you haven't seen firsthand. It's what's out there and getting back to you. Okay? Does it make sense?
Good. Yes.
Okay. Any other observations? You know, I think with, I'm going to make sure I have no other notes here. Oh, there's a word chaste I wrote down. Oh, here's another thing I do want to point out. When I had said earlier that some things are in quotes, I'd like you to start practicing with Laertes, particularly, because we know that's in quotes, that it's a saying. So don't even try to make it his own words. Try to pass it on to her with the sense of, you know, the chariot's maid is, you know, we've heard this, our father has said this, because it happens twice. And then it's broken up by a line that goes back to being Laertes. But I think it's the best way to highlight that section there. And they are definitely sayings, you know. All right. Does that, everybody see what I'm talking about? My folio keeps going out. That's the problem that I'm having with this. Having it on Kindle is.
Annie, I'm sorry though. I might just need a little clarification on that.
Okay.
The quoted moments are the chariest maid is. I guess can you clarify which moments are?
Nick, do you have it in your script?
Yeah. So it's the chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon is the quote.
Okay, got it.
And then interrupted with virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes.
Gotcha.
And then the other quote is the canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before the buttons be disclosed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep. You know, good. And the other thing that occurred to me, yeah, go ahead. Somebody gonna say
Michelle has a question.
Hello, Michelle.
Yes, I was confused by the comma after the canker galls because it seemed to me that the phrase would be the canker galls the infants of the spring.
Yes, and I think it is.
Okay.
However, the way you could use that comma is to think of what the canker galls. So the canker galls, the infants of the spring. So I use the comma to think of how I'm going to finish it. You see?
Yes.
We're so used to commas being a series, and the folio, it's an active punctuation. So, you know, you want to see how that works. That's what I was saying earlier with Lee, with that word rich, not gaudy. Well, sure, it's rich, not gaudy, but the fact that he's thinking, to have a Polonius, by the way, this starts to get to be really interesting, have a Polonius who's thinking what he wants to say next, because of so many use of, you know, all the commas that he uses, is a kind of character possibility.
I think of a very specific human in my life. in relation to those three words. I can see an actor who has passed, Richard is his name, and he would do that perfectly, just naturally. Rich, not gaudy. You know? That nice shift, and that was just who he was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
But
yeah, go ahead.
no. I just find all of this a feast, you know, for imagination and possibility. I like it. Thank you.
I just want to make sure there's nothing that I'm leaving out. And I think I told you, by the way, in my email about these precepts, that Lord Burleigh, who was Queen Elizabeth's chief advisor, his precepts that he had given to his son exist. And now scholars have come to the conclusion that even though it's thought that they may have been a model for Polonius, they're not similar. You're not going to see Polonius's speeches in them. But what I think becomes interesting is that some of the content of it is, for instance, the first precept has to do with spending too much money. The fourth one is welcoming friends and relationships and shaking off parasites. The fifth one is borrowing and lending money. The seventh one is keeping great men and friends. So there's enough in it to make you realize that, oh, maybe Shakespeare was aware of these precepts, but more importantly, that it was a common thing. This is not just a bumbling old Polonius deciding that, oh, I'm going to say this before he goes. But these precepts were quite serious. And his son is leaving. And obviously, this is a man who keeps a watch on his children. But if he's leaving, he wants him to remember the precepts that will save him embarrassment or a lost reputation. And so it was Lord Burleigh allows us to understand that this is a common thing to do when one is saying, passing on some wisdom.
A father's responsibility.
Yeah. Right. And I think we talked about this last week. It's good advice. It's not bad advice.
No.
You know, it's pretty good. What do you make, however, of to thine own self be true? And it must follow as the day the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. What is he saying? Anybody? Because Randy and I we toss this one back and forth. On paper, you know, when I graduated high school, my aunt wrote that in my yearbook to me, to thine own self be true. So I always took it as some wonderful advice, you know, never really known what the hell it meant.
I never considered otherwise, but now that you're saying it, you're making me think maybe it's like, just remember, as long as you believe the lie you're telling, no one will ever catch you in a lie. That's, you know, I mean, that's I can hear that in it now. Just remember, you know, believe it. Yeah, no, I never thought of it darkly before, but
yeah. I mean, I think when it happens, and I think all of you have made the choice that I think was wonderful, is to allow the parting to be loving. We're not going to see Laertes again. Polonius will die, and Ophelia will go mad. And so to remember this as a loving family and how the tragedy certainly turns that on its head, I think is very important by seeing the parting. And everybody did that, which is great. I just become very curious about the line itself, if it's true, and what does it ultimately mean? And does Polonius follow it? The controversy among scholars is that it's ironic because they believe that Polonius does not follow it. I don't know that I ever remembered that as he went through and said, oh, he said that to his son, but he's not following. I just never made that
I
connection.
challenge anyone to try following that.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
It's
It's
a lifelong pursuit, I think.
But I think he
I've
does
always thought it meant a bit follow your heart, follow your instincts, which is quite ironic considering he just told his daughter the opposite, not to follow her heart.
Yep.
I like that.
Well, we'll tell her that.
And this don't try and be what you're not. You have to find out what you really are. Just don't
Yeah.
imitate other people.
Mhm.
But
And coming from a man that is going to spy on his own children, you know, or in Ophelia's case,
And
tell
spy
her
on
how
Hamlet.
she should behave.
maybe it's aspirational for Polonius. He's
Aha.
He's
Yeah.
a politician. That's a hard damn life to live if
Yeah.
you're a politician.
Yeah. I think we have time to read it again.
Can I ask a quick question about
Yes.
a line I'm having problems with? And they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous
Chief.
chief.
You'll find that it's pronounced chief. I know you have chef, right?
Right. What is the literal translation? Are of a most select and generous chief in that?
That they are known, all right, that the French are known. How do I paraphrase it? Let's see.
For superb taste.
Yeah, I need a literal translation.
want a
The way we
literal-
used to do at APT, remember, we would say
Yeah.
our line and then we would do that painstaking
Paragraph.
literal line by line translation, which was very hard to do.
Yeah,
I,
obviously.
I can't find the sense of that literally.
Select. Generous.
I think that the French are selected across the world as the finest dress. They're known chiefly for their dress, and they are selected for the beauty of their dress. It's kind of a, not the best way of doing it, but that's the connection of chief and select.
You know,
I switch it to-
I just have something open with some options.
Yeah.
And the one that just rang for me, I'll just say this one, is choice, are of that kind of choice, are of that taste, have that understanding. So perhaps a misspelling, the SF thing, or they did spell choice with S's sometimes, right?
I thought there was like an implied chief position in that.
Or
Is
that
sort of the way I'm reading that there's an implied word. They are of a most chief position in that.
Most select.
That was
yeah,
my
I thought of it as preeminent.
Oh, nice. I think obviously we have to do more research, Jim, to get it
More
complete. But I think
specific.
everybody is certainly in the area, and I
Maybe
know
it's cheese.
I'm amazed that we ever got any plays up on their feet with doing it with every line.
Well,
But
the Variorum has about a page and a half of tiny footnotes for that one chief in that.
yeah.
Chiefly helps me though. Chiefly in that it helps me.
Oh, Art, how would that sound
What?
with chiefly? Did you say?
Yeah.
In what text?
Are a most select and generous chiefly in that.
But is that from the Quarto?
No, that's what you just suggested to me.
Oh, yeah. So I'm not going to. I wouldn't change the word. That wouldn't be me.
No, I'm not changing the word. I'm just taking your suggestion of
Yeah.
whatever the Quarto says. What do they know?
Yep. Right. Okay. Okay. Randall, I have a question.
Yeah.
I have a half hour.
All right.
We're slated to do this again, but I'm wondering if we shouldn't do what we had planned so we can introduce it for the next time is take a look at the scene with Hamlet and Horatio and Marcellus before the ghost. Shall
All
we move?
right.
Is that all right? Ben,
Yeah.
I'm sorry because you didn't get your chance to do Polonius.
You don't want to read the
Okay.
Polonius scene again and just
But we won't get
Oh.
both of them in, is my point.
we won't?
No,
I think we will.
I know we won't. I guess if we pause, we surely won't. Do you want to try it?
Yeah. I like connecting scenes. I like I like how seeing how one scene follows another.
Okay, I agree. So what I would like then is Ben will do Polonius, and
Oh.
Michelle, if you would do Laertes,
Oh,
and then Liz, would you mind doing Ophelia again?
no.
Then what?
And then who plays what?
Yeah.
And
Wait, you're muted. You're muted, Anne.
I got it for the first time in my life. Randy will do Hamlet. Lee, would you do Marcellus? He's muted too. And Nick, you'll do Horatio. How can we tell Lee? Oh, he got it. Okay. All right, I'm getting out of here.
So we starting at the very top of the scene?
Yes, sir.
Great.
My necessaries are embarked. Farewell. And sister, as the winds give benefit and convoy is assistant, do not sleep, but let me hear from you.
Do you doubt that?
For Hamlet and the trifling of his favors, hold it a fashion and a toy in blood, a violet in the youth of primy nature, forward, not permanent, sweet, not lasting, the suppliance of a minute. No more.
No more, but so.
Think it no more. For nature crescent does not grow alone in thews and bulk, but as his temple waxes, the inward service of the mind and soul grows wide withal. Perhaps he loves you now, and now no soil nor caudle doth besmirch the virtue of his will. But you must fear, his greatness weighed, his will is not his own. For he himself is subject to his birth. He may not, as unvalued persons do, carve for himself, for on his choice depends the sanctity and health of the whole state. And therefore must his choice be circumscribed unto the voice and yielding of that body whereof he is the head. Then if he says he loves you, it fits your wisdom so far to believe it, as he in his particular sect and force may give his saying deed, which is no further than the main voice of Denmark goes withal. Then weigh what loss your honor may sustain, if with too credent ear you list his songs, or lose your heart, or your chaste treasure open to his unmastered importunity. Fear it, Ophelia, fear it, my dear sister, and keep within the rear of your affection, out of the shot and danger of desire. The chariest maid is prodigal enough if she unmask her beauty to the moon. Virtue itself scapes not calumnious strokes. The canker galls the infants of the spring too oft before the buttons be disclosed, and in the morn and liquid dew of youth, contagious blastments are most imminent. Be wary then, best safety lies in fear. Youth to itself rebels, though none else near.
I shall the effect of this good lesson keep as watchman to my heart. But, good my brother, do not, as some ungracious pastors do, show me the steep and thorny way to heaven, whilst like a puffed and reckless libertine himself the primrose path of dalliance treads, and reeks not his own reed.
Oh, fear me not. I stay too long. But here my father comes. A double blessing is a double grace. Occasion smiles upon a second leave.
Yet here, Laertes? Aboard for shame! You are stayed. The wind sits in the shoulder of your sail, and you are stayed for. My blessings go with you, and these few precepts in thy memory. See thou character. Give thy thoughts no tongue, nor any unproportioned thought his act. Be thou familiar, but by no means vulgar. The friends thou hast and their adoption tried, grapple them to thy soul with hoops of steel, but do not dull thy palm with entertainment of each unhatched, unfledged comrade. Beware of entrance to a quarrel, but being in, bear it that the opposed may beware of thee. Give every man thine ear, but few thy voice. Take each man's censure, but reserve thy judgment. Costly thy habit as thy purse can buy, but not expressed in fancy. Rich, not gaudy, for the apparel oft proclaims the man. And they in France of the best rank and station are of a most select and generous chief in that. Neither a borrower nor a lender be, for loan oft loses both itself and friend, and borrowing dulls the edge of husbandry. This, above all, to thine own self be true, and it must follow as the night the day. Thou canst not then be false to any man. Farewell, my blessed season this in thee.
Most humbly do I take my leave, my lord.
The time invites you. Go, your servants tend.
Farewell, Ophelia, and remember well what I have said to you.
'Tis in my memory locked, and you yourself shall keep the key of it.
Farewell.
What is't, Ophelia, he hath said to you?
So please you, something touching the Lord Hamlet.
Marry, well bethought. 'Tis told me he hath very oft of late given private time to you, and you yourself have of your audience been most free and bounteous. If it be so, as 'tis put on me, and that in way of caution, I must tell you, you do not understand yourself so clearly as it behooves my daughter and your honor. What is between you? Give me up the truth.
He hath, my lord, of late made many tenders of his affection to me.
Affection? Poh! You speak like a green girl, unsifted in such perilous circumstance. Do you believe his tenders, as you call them?
I do not know, my lord, what I should think.
Marry, I'll teach you. Think yourself a baby, that you have ta'en his tenders for true pay, which are not sterling. Tender yourself more dearly, or not to crack the wind of the poor phrase, roaming it thus, you'll tender me a fool.
My lord, he hath importuned me with love in honourable fashion.
Aye, fashion you may call it. Go to.
And hath given countenance to his speech, my lord, with all the holy vows of heaven.
Aye, springes to catch woodcocks. I do know when the blood burns, how prodigal the soul gives the tongue vows. These blazes, daughter, giving more light than heat, extinct in both, even in their promise as it is a making, you must not take for fire. For this time, daughter, be somewhat scanter of your maiden presence. Set your entreatments at a higher rate than a command to parley. For Lord Hamlet, Believe so much in him that he is young, and with a larger tether may he walk than may be given you. In feu, Ophelia, do not believe his vows, for they are brokers, not of the eye, which their investments show, but merely implorators of unholy suits, breathing like sanctified and pious bonds, the better to beguile. This is for all. I would not, in plain terms, from this time forth, have you so slander any moment's leisure as to give words or talk with the Lord Hamlet. Look to it. I charge you. Come your ways.
I shall obey, my lord.
The bite chilly. Is it very cold?
It's a nipping and an eager air.
So what hour now?
I think it lacks of 12.
No, it is struck.
Indeed, I heard it not. Then it draws near the season, wherein the spirit held his wont to walk. What does this mean, my lord?
The king doth wake tonight, and takes his rouse, keeps wassels and the swaggering upspring reels, and as he drains his draughts of Rhenish down, the kettle drum and trumpet thus bray out the triumph of his pledge.
Is it a custom?
Aye, marriest, and to my mind, though I'm native here and to the manor born, it is a custom more honoured in the breach than the observance.
Look, my lord, it comes.
Angels and ministers of grace defend us. Be thou a spirit of health, or goblin damned. Bring with thee airs from heaven, or blasts from hell. Be thy events wicked or charitable, thou comest in such a questionable shape that I will speak to thee. I'll call thee Hamlet, King, Father, Royal Dane. Oh, answer me. Let me not burst in ignorance, but tell why thy canonized bones, hearsed in death, have burst their cerements. Why the sepulchre wherein we saw thee quietly inurned hath oped his ponderous and marble jaws to cast thee up again. What may this mean? That thou, dead corse, again in complete steel revisits thus the glimpses of the moon, making night hideous, and we fools of nature so hurriedly to shake our disposition with thoughts beyond the reaches of our souls. Say, why is this? Wherefore? What should we do?
It beckons you to go away with it, as if some impartment did desire to you alone.
Look, with what courteous action it wafts you to a more removed ground. But do not go with it.
No, by no means.
It will not speak. Then will I follow it.
Do not, my lord.
Why? What should be the fear? I do not set my life at a pin's fee. And for my soul, what can it do to that, being a thing immortal as itself? It waves me forth again. I'll follow it.
What if it tempt you toward the flood, my lord, or to the dreadful sonnet of the cliff that beetles o'er his base into the sea, and there assumes some other horrid form, which might deprive your sovereignty of reason and draw you into the madness? Think of it.
It wafts me still. Go on, I'll follow thee.
You shall not go, my lord.
Hold off your hand.
He ruled, you shall not go.
My fate cries out, and makes each petty artery in this body as hardy as the Nemean lion's nerve. Still am I called? Unhand me, gentlemen. By heaven, I'll make a ghost of him that lets me. I say away. Go on. I'll follow thee.
He waxes desperate with imagination. Shit, sorry, that's you.
Sorry. He waxes desperate with imagination.
Let's follow. 'Tis not fit thus to obey him.
Have after. To what issue will this come?
Something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Heaven will direct it.
Nay, let's follow him.
Good.
I am sorry for my profanity.
Get
Yeah.
caught up in the excitement.
I did. I did.
All right, Randy, you win. We did get through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
But he waxes desperate with imagination. Really struck me. I think it
Sure.
just, yeah. It,
Yeah, I
But-
like the fact too that Horatio doesn't want to follow.
Yeah.
Heaven directed. I'll just stay, and you're the one who makes him go.
yeah, we have to see this. Yeah, we have to
Exciting.
protect him.
Also, Marcellus' line, which is usually ridiculed, something is rotten in the state of Denmark.
Oh,
He sums up what's politically going
confirmation.
on. That's right.
Confirmation.
That's right. This
Sick at heart,
appearance,
you
yep,
know, all of that.
does not bode well.
Yeah.
And I've come to love Marcel. You know, again, so
yeah.
many times he's
Finally.
played general soldier. And the thing about him that we had talked about earlier is that here's somebody so disturbed by the events that are happening with the watch and the ghost now, you know, and that here he's blossomed into somebody who's ready to just take control, get Horatio there, follow Hamlet. He grows, you know, and it's wonderful.
Well, as we discussed, you know, at the top of show, how many, who has seen it and how many times?
Yeah.
Right? And Horatio was a 0, and Marcellus and Bernardo were a 2 or whatever, 3. And now we have Horatio, who has seen it once. Marcellus sees it all the time.
That's right. He's been in every one of those encounters.
I
That's
believe he has, right?
right. That's right.
Yeah. So each of their relationships to this particular version of the event of the apparition is
Yeah.
unique, and that keeps things growing.
One
Yeah.
thing that also strikes me about Marcellus is the way he's able to move among social strata. He can command his younger soldiers, but by the same token, he is not uncomfortable with being in court or even talking to the prince. So for me, he's a really, really interesting character
Yes,
because
and it also says something about Hamlet's relationship to someone like Marcellus. Claudius, you would never see that relationship with
yes,
him. You can see
absolutely.
with Voltimand and Cornelius, how he just shuts them up. You'll go do your business and you'll come back quickly. Hamlet embraces Marcellus, comes in and he says, Marcellus, he recognizes him. So yeah, you're right. It's wonderful.
And he puts his hand on Hamlet. Hamlet has to tell him, take your hand off of me. Don't stop me. Yeah.
Right.
It's
Let me
wonderful.
invite everybody to come on if they'd like, and just open it up to those people who've been audience. They're not coming on, of course, but to just see if, as this session closes, we'll leave the Polonius and Laertes Ophelia scene for now. And of course, as we come to the end of this act, we're going to do the whole thing. So it will be up ahead. And I'm glad that we did overlap. I mean, Lee had mentioned this before, Ophelia leaving as Hamlet comes in. But just the energy of it as well is a very exciting thing, that you have Ophelia finishing her moment with Polonius, and then we're back waiting for the ghost, which is where we left off before that scene happened. Every scene ends with something to anticipate. And I think it's so important to make that clear in productions, is that we want to know what happens next, rather than, okay, that's scenes, you know, in acting classes, people say scene and it's over, but that's not this at all. It's a matter of, we get to know the Polonius family, we get to know a little bit about the relationship. We really find out for the first time that Ophelia has any relationship whatsoever with Hamlet. We haven't seen any of that yet. So we're introduced to that. By the end of it, it's like, oh my God, what's going to happen next? And then before you know it, we're into this next scene. So it just keeps moving forward. It is possible to do this play with intermission. We did 2 intermissions and it lasted 3.5 hours. So I don't think that's long when you're doing the entire play, you know? Okay. Okay. Anything else? Anybody? Sandy, say something. Sandy Ernst. You have nothing to say.
Sandy
I had
Robbins.
myself unmuted. So
Oh.
I'm just an audience now. No, I love it. You know, it's interesting to me how many of these lines I don't even remember. And I know I have because we've done the uncut. And I was only grinning, Annie, because I was like, wait a minute. I stage managed Hamlet. I don't remember it being 3.5 hours with 2 intermissions, but it probably just felt longer to me.
Well, that's one of the recordings that I have of it, is that that was the I think 3:45 was the longest. But again, the whole play.
Well,
And if you remember, here's the thing that I remember was the night that Randy was sick as a dog and it was raining out, and the audience, Chuck went down the Hanamichi to end the show because it was raining, and the audience booed him. They were willing to sit through anything to get through the entire production. So when I had an argument with a bus driver in London when we were there, because he said, well, there's no way you can do these plays uncut. No way. The audience would never, no, never. And I said, you're wrong. I've done it. And they've stayed. And in fact, they booed when we tried to end it because of bad weather. So I do know it's possible. It's all how well you do it. You know,
I would say also, yeah, I swore it was 4, but that's okay, 3.5, whatever it was. The fact that, and we all know this is true now, there are so many plays now, it's like 90% of the plays that I read are like, you can do it in 90 minutes without an intermission, because that's the big thing now.
That's right.
When we did it with 2 intermissions, I now know how rare this is. Almost never, once in a while, you'd see 2 elderly people leave at the second intermission, maybe walk down the hill, but you seldom saw people leaving at those intermissions. So,
Sandy Robbins, did you want to add anything to? We always love having you here. So, whatever.
I love being here. I don't know that I have much to add. I do think that, I just came back from Norway, as you and Randy know, and where I spent some time in Ibsen's home. And that line, to thine own self be true, is a critical line in Peer Gynt. And really where, Ibsen is questioning, is there a self to which you could be true? And it just, for me, there's the resonances between all these great plays, many of which reference one another, is one large, enormously empowering conversation.
Yes.
Yeah. The thing I do want to say about that last scene is that what's said about Claudius and his decaying mirrors the decaying of Denmark itself, I think, and leads us to there's something rotten in the state of Denmark. And we know it because the leader's rotten.
Yes. Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. Right. Not much more we need to say. Well, I think that, and that brings up this whole idea of working on these plays. And, you had asked Randy and I when we did that FaceTime together, what play we thought would be pertinent for today, and I have to say, I came to the conclusion for me that it's the Trojan Women.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, it's always pertinent. I yearn for a day when it isn't, but here we are.
Yeah.
Oh, there's something for whoever does Horatio. Horatio warns Hamlet not to follow the ghost. It will lead him to madness. And that line almost always just goes by, but it's in fact a foreshadowing of the next several episodes of the play, and it oughtn't to just go by. It ought to land for us, it seems to me.
Yeah. Yeah, now you're making me
Yeah,
think.
and I think that's where the line "he waxes desperate with imagination"
Yeah, same thing.
Is connected after
Yeah.
he does that, right?
Yeah. There's so many times when there is a foreshadowing that if we actually hear it, if it actually lands, then when that which has been foreshadowed occurs, it penetrates us in a way deeper way, I think.
Yep. I think so. And I think that that's why the way we're working on the play right now, by taking each scene and trying to examine as much as we can of what's in it, is how we're coming up with, oh, that can connect with what's coming up ahead. How many times, even in today's conversation, did Lee brought up the Queen referring to Ophelia? You know, we keep moving ahead and saying, oh, right, that's going to happen down the road, but these are the seeds planted. Randy and I talked about how the work we're doing on Act 1 really is the seed planting.
Sure it is.
This is where we're getting to know the characters, getting to know the situation, and then by the time we move to Act 2, that whole act takes on something else, becomes Hamlet trying to, of course, decide how he's going to deal with finding out if the ghost is real or not. But each act seems to bring something new to it. This is the seed planting act.
Yeah. Hey, there's one other thing, you know, this thing about is it too long for, it's just horseshit because it's long if it's not any good, and it goes by in a snap of a finger if it is. You know, I've been at plays that were 30 minutes long that seemed like they would never end. And I saw the House of Atreus, the Guthrie production, 17 times. And it was, you know, it seemed to be very short. So I just think, you know, what Einstein says that, you know, I forget, I'll paraphrase it and mess it up, but an hour in the dentist's chair is different from an hour in your lover's arms.
Great. It's great. Well, here we are at 6, so we'll pick up with this scene next week. I'm not sure, Randy, that we're going to need 2 weeks for it. So perhaps people should read ahead to the ghost scene.
Whoa.
Just to have it
ambitious, aren't you?
Well,
okay. Okay.
I think it's a possibility. Let's say that.
Okay.
Once again, thank you, everybody, for being.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're having a wonderful time exploring this with you. It's wonderful.
And
Thank
if
you.
I might jump in quickly, Annie and Randy, I'm meeting on Thursday with Ed Koharski and Liz.
Oh.
I'm drawing a blank. Liz, who did the lighting.
Yes.
We're
Liz
meeting
Green.
on Thursday, so I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the construction of the facilities. And
Yes,
Please give our most loving regards to them.
I will do that.
Those are the, you know, Rebecca, those are the stories. I mean, the people who made that theater, well, you have some of them sitting here.
Quite a few.
Before we ever opened the doors, there was a gathering of people who had a love for it and a trust that we could deliver what we had promised. This is including people in Spring Green. I hope that some of those people you'll get to talk to also, because that's what made it happen, was somehow people who had faith that it could happen, and they made it happen. So I love that part of the story.
Well, I'm excited to get all these different perspectives.
It's great. Wonderful. Thank you
Thanks,
all.
everybody.
Thank
See you
you.
next week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.